Hi guys, welcome to Investing with JYK, and today we'll talk about sand. So this graph is the WTI crude oil price, and this graph is the hydraulic fracturing sand price. Okay, notice something? They're all the same time period. I did 5 years on both. They almost follow the same pattern. So that's the interesting thing. Okay, so as oil price increase, obviously more frackers become, more shale oil guys become profitable, so more wells will be dug, and then more fracking will happen. Fracking is really just they crack the rock with very high pressure liquid, gel-like shit, and the gel-like thing would carry sand into the cracks of the rocks, and that sand will stay there when the pressure is removed and then prop open the cracks. So that enables the oil and gas to be released from the rocks. So as more and more wells go online, more fracking sand will be needed. You can see that fracking sand is now $80, $90 per ton, I think. So that's quite interesting. So let's see if we can find some interesting things here. So okay, so there we go. I found this guy, HCLP. If you look at its price, it went crazy in 2014. That's if you look at the same dates, right? So that's like August, and that's essentially here. Well, actually, somewhere here. And August 2014, that's close to the top. So the market probably has predicted the fall, because even though price of oil dropped, there's a lag before people respond. So like 3 months later, sand price dropped. And since the sand price dropped, the price of HCLP dropped like crazy, from $70 all the way down to $4. Yay! Welcome to the cyclical industry. Now, this may be a good opportunity to buy, I think, because if you overlay those two graphs, if I see if I can make this any bigger, I want 5 years. It doesn't make any bigger. But if you look at these two graphs, you can see the fracking sand price already moved back up, from 70 to 80 something, and the price of this guy did not nowhere near this crazy amount. But this is we're what, $10 away from the peak, but $15 away from the bottom. And from the peak, you can see this is way away from the peak. Even if you account for, halfway, it's not even halfway. It's like we're still at approximately 70%, 80% down. And so if we do a 12.2 times 5, 61. Yeah, it's not even enough. 6. Yeah, so it's like 84% down from the peak. And some weird thing happened here. Like, you can see the price actually did respond pretty well to the sand price somewhere in 2017. And that's actually the peak. And then since then, there's a strange lag. You can see there's a strange lag. Like, this whole thing seems to be the whole graph seems to be shifted. Right? The peak happened in here first, and then in here, and the bottom happened in here first. So that's early 2016, and then in here. But if you compare that to oil, you can see that it actually follows a little bit more closely. So except in here where you have a strange huge bump here, but the bottom is there at February, and then the bottom here is around February of 2016 as well. And then early 2017, you got a slight peak of oil price and went down a bit, and then you got a slight peak of oil price and went down a bit. Then it kind of just stayed flat. Very interesting. So, So my thesis is that because oil went up, sand price went up, this thing is decoupled from those two prices. It's very similar to, let's ESV, if you remember that video. So maybe there's an opportunity here. How far can oil go? I don't know. Assuming oil keeps the current price, let's say if it keeps current price, this should go back up at least to 2017 levels, because if you look at oil price, it's actually much higher than 2017 levels. But this one is much lower. And they're making a profit. It's not as if they're burning away their asset. Let's see. Let's put their book value. Equity. Book equity. And then let's do sales. Revenue. Total revenue. Do 5 years. It's no book equity. What the fuck? Share. Total shares outstanding. There's no equity? What? Total shareholders equity. Okay. Not available? What? Anyways. But look, revenue is much higher compared to their peak earnings. That's when people went crazy. And if you look at other things, let's say earnings, right? Basic EPS, net income, it actually is lower, but it's still not bad. Revenue is much higher now, so we don't know if this can continue climbing, but you can see that earnings now is like 1.6, back then is 3, so half earnings, but the price is 80% less. So there's a huge discrepancy. And if you look at its own data, let's see if I just do that. HCLP. If you look at its data, you can see PB is not high. It's above 1, which is unfortunate, but I never found this before. PE is low. So it's low PE on cyclical industry is dangerous, but since PB is also low, maybe the market is underestimating this guy. If this is like 3 PB, then I would be more worried. And they have not much debt. 24% debt, so they're not going to bankrupt anytime soon, and they're paying a 7% dividend. So yeah, I think that's very interesting. And some risk factors. Oh, the other thing is if you look at the other frac sand producers, they all had a crazy run up in 2017. This one's more than frac sand. This EXP is building sand as well. Building sand and frac sands are actually two different types, because frac sand is small I think the proper name is usually like monocrystalline sand, and it's mostly mined in Wisconsin. And they're round, hard, and small and fine. So they can go into very small cracks and prop open those cracks. If you mine normal building sand for concrete, they have to be coarse, large, and then probably have like uh, more angles. So then they are better in the concrete. If you put monocrystalline sand, the small grain sand, into concrete, their structure is actually weaker. So sands are not all the same. So yeah, this guy clearly is following some similar pattern as HCLP. This guy is keep going up. I think it's because it was helped by also the building sand. It has more building sand around. But HCLP is clearly the worst guy if you compare, you know, this one's down half, about half. This is down more than, this is up, obviously, compared to the peak. This one down 86%. So here you go. I think this is one of the more undervalued companies. And one potential problem is it's an LP. I think you get a K1, so you get tax issues. You got to file tax differently. It's all kind of crap. So that. But potentially you can get some tax benefit as well. But you kind of have to deal with it. So that's one. The other thing is, if this keeps rising, maybe the frackers will try shittier sand. And then it becomes a balancing act. You put shittier sand and you have less yield per well, but maybe your sand is cheap enough, right? So that is something. And the other thing is that I didn't mention is this is from 2016 or 15 or something like that. 2015, yeah, it's 2015. Oh yeah, here. This is the monocrystalline sand, and this is the brown sand that you use for all kinds of other purposes. It looks very different, eh? And it's mined in these things. And then you can do it from the sandstone as well. Anyway, they put a lot of them in. They put like, I don't remember, it was like some huge crazy number. Here, each well is, in a day, consumes, while it's fracking, consumes 6 million pounds. That's insane. Well, it's not multi-well. Each pad, each drilling pad. So now they can drill multiple wells on the same pad. So yeah, 130 dry bulk trailers every 24 hours. It's a crazy amount of sand going into the ground. Crazy amount. And the other number that I saw was each day the total Permian consumes 300 million. This is when? This is December 2017. That's when the fracking kind of started picking back up. So now you actually have higher consumption compared to 2015 or 14. So demand is definitely there. The problem is you got to ship these. This guy's sand is in Wisconsin, and then the oil is not in Wisconsin. Oil is in Texas, so you have to ship them there. Shipping sand is a very bad business normally because sand is heavy and not worth that much. It's worth $80 per ton. So typically when it's shipped over to Texas, it's worth $160 or more dollars, 2 times or 3 times. That means I mean, mining sand is going to be costing the same no matter where you mine it. Typically, as long as it's, you know, within the same country, say similar wages and stuff. But that means if you're able to mine the sand. Oops, let's just keep looking at this nice graph. Whee. So imagine if you mine sand near the drilling, the fracking site, then suddenly you don't need to pay that shipping cost, which is, you know, 2/3 of the cost, really. So that becomes a balancing act for the miners, the frackers, right? And so maybe they will come up with a substitute. But at the moment, I think the risk reward balance is still favors this HCLP company. And yeah, so this is a fairly rough analysis on sand and fracking and oil. Very interesting how these are tied. And then if you keep thinking that the sand thing is also used, the same sand is also used in glass, because in glass you want the clean sand. You don't want the sand with a lot of shit in it, which is a brown one. So maybe the raw material for glass will go up, but I haven't looked into how much raw material cost in glass, because I would imagine the majority of the cost for glass is going to be at the heating, the energy cost for it, not necessarily the sand, because sand is, you know, a ton of glass is worth a lot of money, but a ton of sand produces almost a ton of glass and is worth, I don't know, $40. Even if it goes to $80, is $80. Right? A piece of glass is maybe $20, and that's only what, 5 kilos? I'm just imagining these things. I don't actually have the number in my head. So yeah, hopefully this is useful. And if you like this, click like, click subscribe, recommend to your friends. If you don't, click dislike, tell me why you hate it. If you think the videos are too long and I did not digest the thing enough for you, that one I will not change. I'm mostly trying to show how I do research, and then I will show you the source of the information rather than give you a report of the conclusion. See you next time.